My husband took the child and, carrying me aside, supported a concubine. I contacted the emperor and empress dowager and said I had come to terms with it, and would return to the palace in 5 days. On the night I returned to the palace, a great fire consumed my courtyard. My husband coughed up blood and collapsed. Baiji, tell the emperor and empress dowager that I have come to terms with it, and in 5 days I will officially return. Upon hearing this, Baiji was overjoyed and hurried to inform the people in the palace. A reply came back quickly. Lady, Clark, she has replied. He says the Empress and His Majesty are overjoyed and have already sent people to arrange the ennoblement ceremony. They tell you to settle your household. If you truly cannot bear to leave, they will see what can be done. Baiji continued chattering on, but Li Wanyan stared blankly for a long time, then slowly looked toward the portrait hanging in the room. In the portrait, her husband and children gazed at her with full hearts and eyes. Her husband held her waist tightly, and the children sat around her knees. The happiness of that moment seemed about to pierce through the image and flow out. The prickle of pain in her now was dense and throbbing deep in her heart. Her husband and the others had no idea that she was actually a princess of the current dynasty. 7 years ago, she was abducted by human traffickers outside the palace because she was being mischievous. Just as she thought of a way to escape, Fang Huiyuan burst in with a knife. She was awed by his courage in that moment. When he asked where she lived, she lied, saying she'd injured her head and couldn't remember anything. Seeing how pitiful she was, Fang Huiyuan took her back to his residence and tended to her with care. At that time, Fang Huiyuan was only a 9th-rank petty official, hardly worth a glance in the imperial capital. At the Son of Heaven's feet, she pretended to disclose a lot of important information to him, unintentionally, and he had an epiphany and rose swiftly through the ranks. He married her. They were a loving couple, harmonious as zither and lute, and she became the object of envy among the noble ladies of the capital. On their wedding night, people sent by the Emperor Father and Empress Mother tracked her down and tried to forcibly take her back. Fang Huiyuan loved her so much that if she slipped away without a sound, he would fall apart. He wouldn't be able to go on living. She begged and pleaded, until the Empress softened and agreed to let her stay. After the wedding, she gave birth to a pair of dragon and phoenix twins, and their days were sweet as honey. Every time Fang Huiyuan left court, he would bring her all sorts of treats. All sorts of the latest jewelry and hair ornaments were practically being thrust before her as if they cost nothing. Outside, he was even famously henpecked, often teased by his colleagues. Not only did he not get angry, he even carried a hint of pride. When she was giving birth, he disregarded social conventions and rushed into the inner room, gripping her hand tightly and staying with her for a full 3 days and 2 nights. When the midwife asked whether to save the mother or the child, he insisted on saving the mother. He even swore with tears in his eyes that if anything happened to her, he wouldn't go on living alone. Owen, we won't have any more children, no more. During her confinement, he took leave from time to time to stay by her side, gradually dispelling the gloom in her heart so she wouldn't be overworked. Besides the wet nurse, he was the one who spent the most time taking care of the child. But this doesn't affect her relationship with the children. On the contrary, both kids are very attached to her. Every time before going to the academy, they would come running one after the other to pay their respects and say goodbye. When they returned from school, they would fling themselves into her arms and tell her about the fun at the academy led by Fang Huiyuan. Whenever the children came back from the street, they would bring her all kinds of trinkets and various pastries. But the man who loved her in that way had, 2 years ago, quietly started another household. Fang Huiyuan bought a residence on another street not far from their home and fell in love with the Prime Minister's legitimate daughter. Her children would bring gifts every time they went to see Chen Pingting, and would stick to her, saying they liked Aunt Pingting the most. Even on countless important days, they would make excuses to brush her off, then go to Chen Pingting's place to share in her joys and sorrows. It's easy for an old friend's heart to change. At the moment she discovered the truth, her heart turned to ashes. As for this father and his 2 sons, she didn't want any of them anymore. With her eyes swollen and red, Li Wanyang ordered someone to tear down that painting, then told Baiji to start packing. She sorted out all the meaningful things she had accumulated over the years, filling 3 large boxes to the brim. The room, suddenly emptied, made her heart feel all the more desolate. Mirroring her current circumstances, withdrawing her gaze, she instructed Baiji to place the notes she had written into the 3 boxes respectively, then move them to the storeroom and seal them away. Tell the storeroom staff that only on the day we leave may they disclose the existence of the boxes. Wan Yang, leave? Leave what? The sudden question made her turn around. She saw Fang Huiyuan standing by the door with their 2 children, a box of freshly made pastries in his hand. 02, Mother. The 2 little dumplings rushed over and hugged me from left and right, holding up the pastries in their hands like presenting a treasure. What were you just talking about with Auntie Baiji? After signaling Baiji to leave, Li Wanyang looked toward the plum tree outside the window and said casually, everyday trifles. Fang Huiyuan came over with a smile, rubbed her nose, and began to make excuses for himself. Wanyang, the 2 little ones are just too playful, that's why it's taken so long. Please don't be angry. Okay, playful, he just took the kids to another street to keep Chen Pyongtan company, that's all. With another household to look after, of course he can't keep up. A hint of sarcasm flashed in her eyes. She stared at those pastries for a long moment before speaking lightly. By nature, I want the children to be happy too. There's nothing to be angry about, let's go inside. As they entered the room, the father and sons exclaimed in surprise. The whole room felt much emptier. Their daughter, Fang Yunmo, spoke without thinking. The things that are missing, they all seem to be what we gave Mother, don't they? With her reminder, Fang Huiyuan and his son Fang Yuni both came to their senses. A flicker of panic flashed across Fang Huiyuan's usually calm, unruffled face. Wan Yang, what's going on? Fang Yuni looked at her with pleading eyes. Yeah, Mother, do you not want any of those anymore? Li Wanyang turned and sat on the concubine chair, her tone still calm. It's just put away for now. After having children, to accumulate merit for them and to ward off illness and disasters, she would donate incense money at temples and give aid to charitable halls. Donating money and goods had become routine. Fang Huiyuan thought I was going to do charity again and didn't say much. He secretly relaxed the fist clenched behind his back, sat down beside her, his eyes full of tender affection. Putting them away is good too. It gives us a reason to add some new ones. Fang Yuni nuzzled into her arms and praised her in all seriousness. Mother is the best mother in the Celestial Empire. Your child is the luckiest child in the Celestial Empire. Alright, maybe, after all, she's good enough that her husband and kids ended up with another home. Dusk was falling, and Baiji brought the meal in. Fang Huiyuan personally stepped in and moved her favorite dishes right in front of her. At first, the maids would widen their eyes in surprise. Now, they're no longer fazed by it. Fang Yuni and Fang Yunmo sit around her, picking dishes and serving rice for her. Fang Huiyuan still reminds her now and then to eat more so her body can recover better. Mother, our teacher also told us to eat only the finest grains and the most delicately minced meats. That young master from the vice minister's household, Fang Yunmo chimed in as well, and the 2 children took turns speaking, creating a truly harmonious atmosphere. But Li Wanyang only felt it was like chewing wax. She looked toward Fang Huiyuan. He was listening to the children, occasionally correcting them. She suddenly found it unbearably ironic. Similar scenes, similar words, they must have already played them out while comforting Chen Pinding. Right, leftovers reheated, should they be warmed up in front of her again? Is it necessary? Is it meaningful under a sky full of stars? Li Wanyan looked up for a moment and slowly closed the window. The 2 children were already fast asleep, and Fang Huiyuan came over to hold her. She subtly avoided him, saying she felt a bit tired. Fang Huiyuan showed nothing on his face and instead reminded her to rest early. With only a nightlight left on, she drifted off in a daze. Just then, a servant came in to report something. When Fang Huiyuan heard it, his face changed suddenly. He turned to look at Li Wanyan, made sure she was asleep, and then followed out of the inner room faintly. She heard words like madam and ill. The 2 children seemed to sense something. They opened their eyes, got out of bed, and quietly followed outside. Fang Huiyuan's deliberately lowered voice came through. Yun Yi, Yun Mo, Aunt Pingting is sick and feeling very unwell alone. I'm going to sit with her. Do you want to come? Of course we want to go. Auntie has been so good to us, we're definitely worried about her. Good. But you must not let your mother know, understand? Don't worry, mother is so easy to fool, the two of us will handle it together, it'll be done in no time. The three, father and sons, reached an agreement and slipped out of the room like thieves, rushing urgently toward the outside of the residence. Inside the room, Li Wanyan slowly opened her eyes, tears swirled in her eye sockets, but she forced them back, suppressing them until the rims of her eyes were red. 03 When dawn was just breaking, the father and his two sons slipped back. Li Wanyan got up as usual and paid them no mind. In the past, she would summon the servants and begin arranging the day's affairs, keeping the residence in perfect order. Ever since learning that Fang Huayuan and the children had another family, she handed all household matters over to Baiji to manage. She was happily enjoying her leisure. On top of that, since she was going back to the palace, she had to get familiar with what had happened over the years. Before long, Fang Huayuan hurried off to court, saying he wouldn't be having breakfast at home. She fixed her eyes on him and, through the sincere affection he feigned, saw the guilt flickering deep within them. The corners of her lips slowly curled up. Fang Huayuan was dazzled by her smile and stared in a daze for a moment. She gave a cold snort inwardly and lowered her head to continue reading the book in her hands. After breakfast, she still had something urgent to do. When she entered the Yizhuang, she didn't let Baiji accompany her and went in alone. Although this charity mortuary was funded entirely by her, none of the staff, including the steward, had ever seen her true face. After she explained her purpose, the clerk couldn't help but freeze. How could anyone accurately predict their own death? Could she be an assassin? Or some other kind of desperado? The clerk's gaze toward her turned wary in an instant. She smiled gently. No need to panic, I'm just a woman shut away in a deep household, tired of living, that's all. Only then did the attendant breathe a sigh of relief, and he began to comfort her, saying things like it's better to live poorly than die well, and that one shouldn't hang oneself from a single crooked neck tree, and the like. She listened quietly. The clerk saw she remained indifferent, finally lost heart, and began to register the address. She gave an address, and after the clerk wrote it down, he muttered around the pen in his mouth, "This residence looks a bit familiar." After paying the deposit in advance, Li Wanyang walked out and hurried to the auction. This auction had become popular in the trading firm in recent years. Rare and valuable jewelry and paintings often appear, drawing Kyoto's wealthy and powerful families who flock to them. Society ladies and heiresses are even more proud to win a lot, relishing the stories and never tiring of it. She had arranged for the admission booklet 6 months ago through a connection, in order to bid on an inkstone once used by a renowned master of the former dynasty, to give to Fang Huayuan. An attendant led her to a private box. As they passed the box next door, cheerful laughter drifted out from inside. You don't need to listen closely to know it was Fang Huayuan with the two children, and the unfamiliar woman's voice, no doubt. It was Chen Pingtin. "Auntie, don't be sad, father has already agreed to buy that pearl and coral gold hairpiece for you." "Yes, Yunmore brought Osman thus cakes for mother, she'll give you some too." "Okay." Chen Pingtin's sobs gradually subsided. "Then aren't you afraid your mother will be angry with you?" "My mother loves me so much, she can't bear to scold me. It's fine, I'll act cute and she'll forgive me for everything." Then came the woman's teary laughter. Even though Li Wanyan was mentally prepared, she was still stung. When the auction began, she changed her mind. Instead of bidding on a renowned scholar's inkstone, she went for a pair of dragon and phoenix pendants. Since she was going back to the palace, how could she not bring a meeting gift for the Emperor Father and Empress Mother? Gifts, of course, should be given to those who deserve them. After making her purchase, she didn't want to linger and turned to leave the private room. Just then, Fang Yuni ran out of the private room to use the restroom. Seeing her, he was so shocked his mouth fell open. Li Wanyan didn't want to spare him a glance and kept walking out, but he rushed forward and grabbed the hem of her skirt. "Mother, why won't you pay attention to me?" His words quickly alarmed Fang Huayuan and the others in the private room. He hurried out holding his daughter, his gaze on her filled with tension. "Wanyang, why are you here?" 04 She lowered her eyelids, unwilling to look at their meaningless panic. "Then why are you all here?" Fang Huayuan racked his brains for an excuse but couldn't find one. Instead, it was Fang Yuni who reminded him. "The gift. Yes, a gift. We came to film a gift for you, thinking we'd give you a surprise for mid-autumn. Yes, that's it. She didn't expose them. She only thought they were two-faced, full of lies, utterly detestable. Just then, another person stepped out of the private room and bowed gracefully to her. Pingting pays her respects to Madam. In that moment, father and sons alike were flustered. Instantly straightening up and deliberately keeping their distance from Chen Pingting, Li Wanyan stared at them and felt they looked even more like a family, while she herself seemed out of place. So, the corners of her lips curved faintly. Husband, aren't you going to make an introduction? Fang Huiyuan was so embarrassed he nearly ascended on the spot. Forcing a smile, he said dryly, this is the Chancellor's mansion's daughter, because she has no marriage contract. The children saw her pitying, begged me to bring her in. Wn Niang, you mustn't overthink. Seeing that she still hadn't responded, a pair of sons and daughters began to chime in. Yes, mother. Auntie just wanted to come in and take a keepsake for the family. Mother, you've always been charitable and kind. I suppose you won't mind us helping Auntie, will you? The dignified Prime Minister's daughter doesn't have an auction voucher. These three father and sons really take me for a fool. Chen Pingting probably caught the sarcasm in my tone and tossed out an excuse. Madam, it's all my fault for being careless and losing the voucher the household prepared. That's why I resorted to this scheme. Please forgive me. If I didn't know about their private dealings, I would really have believed him. But at that moment, a servant came over carrying a wooden box. May I ask who is the guest in box No. 3? Fang Huiyuan immediately stepped forward, and the servant handed the wooden box to him. Congratulations, honored guest. You've secured a whole set of exquisite hair ornaments for your lady. Li Wanyang found it terribly amusing and deliberately exclaimed in feigned surprise. Husband, so this is the gift you secretly bid for me. Fang Huiyuan was a little stunned at her words and instinctively looked toward Chen Pingting. Chen Pingting lowered her head, the hand gripping her skirt tight, veins bulging. Li Wanyang sneered, took the box from Fang Huiyuan's hand, and without looking, tossed it to Bai Ji, then turned and left the auction. Passing by Wangxiang Tower, she suddenly felt like it and went in with her people to have a meal. This place is located in a bustling area of the capital. Through the windows one can gaze out in all directions, making it beloved by exam candidates from everywhere. Hence its name. Li Wanyang was gazing into the distance when she saw Fang Huiyuan enter with Chen Pingting. 05. Fang Huiyuan chased all the way over, and Chen Pingting actually followed as well. In the private room, the atmosphere became subtle. Just as Fang Huiyuan was about to speak, the waiter bustled over, all enthusiasm. Lord Fang, Lady Fang, this is the 100th time you have graced our little shop with your presence. We present a newly developed dish of ours, one portion of each kind on the house, wishing Lord Fang you happiness and a long, enduring life. As the words fell, the room plunged into dead silence. The waiter's gaze flitted between Fang Huiyuan and Chen Pingting. Not understanding what had happened, Li Wanyang let out a light laugh, breaking the chamber's chill. Fang Huiyuan flew into a rage and began scolding the waiter. Where did this ill-mannered lackey come from? This official is visiting your shop for the first time. Open your dog eyes and take a good look. Dare spout nonsense again, and watch your hide. The waiter begged for mercy again and again, retreating all the way out. Li Wanyang looked at him and, instead of anger, burst into laughter. What an impressive show of authority, Lord Fang. Fang Huiyuan hurried to sit beside her, his expression full of panic. Wanyang, that waiter has poor eyesight. He definitely mistook me for someone else. I'm just like you. This is my first time here. Afraid she wouldn't believe him, he hurriedly exchanged meaningful looks with their children. Fang Yuni immediately grabbed my arm and said, Mother, this really was the first time father took us to this restaurant. You know I would never dare lie to you. I can testify too. If father lies, let him turn into a little dog. Fang Yunmo hurriedly chimed in. Chen Pingting watched the exchange between us. The jealousy in her eyes couldn't be hidden, but she nevertheless spoke to smooth things over. Madam, Lord Fang loves you so much, how could he possibly do anything behind your back? It must be the waiter's poor eyesight. Yet didn't she realize her words rather smacked of there are no 300 taels of silver buried here? The sarcasm in Li Wanyang's eyes was almost tangible. ready to slap across their faces. The dishes were served quickly. Li Wanyang didn't want to say more to them and focused on eating. Chen Pingting picked up the communal chopsticks and served everyone dishes. Everything Chen Pingting put into Fang Huiyuan's bowl were the dishes he always loved, and her two children were actually holding up their bowls too, waiting for Chen Pingting to serve them. Chen Pingting even gave her a gentle smile. With a rather provocative air, Li Wanyan hadn't planned to target her, but since she was flaunting it right in front of her, she couldn't be blamed for not being polite. I heard your esteemed household has arranged a marriage, and the other party is the son of a vice minister. With one sentence, Chen Pingting's expression changed. After that, Chen Pingting became much more well-behaved on the way back to the residence, using the lack of a sedan chair as an excuse. Chen Pingting tried to hitch a ride with Li Wanyang. Madam Fang, you really are enviable. If my future husband and children could be like those in your esteemed household, I'd have no regrets in this life. Is Miss Chen simply eager to marry? Do you need me to do something? Chen Pingting's rosy face flushed bright red, and she hid behind Fang Huiyuan, not daring to come out. Li Wanyang snorted coldly at Fang Huiyuan and turned to leave. Your guest, you escort her yourself. Fang Huiyuan had no choice but to hire a small sedan chair to see Chen Pingting back to her residence. As they neared the alley entrance, a startled horse suddenly charged, heading straight for Li Wanyang and Chen Pingting's sedan chair. Pingting, look out, auntie, watch out, auntie. Watch out. As the world spun, Li Wanyang glanced through the carriage curtain and saw the father and son, flushed and frantic, rush past her toward Chen Pingting's sedan 06. When she woke up, Li Wanyang had already returned to the residence. When Baiji saw her awake, she was so moved she nearly cried. You have no idea how anxious Lord Fang and the young master and young miss have been these past few days. They nearly had every doctor in the capital brought to our house, and they even went out to the Dian temple outside the city to kneel and pray. They climbed the 99 steps, the three of them kneeling and kowtowing one step at a time. It's become a much-told sweet story throughout the capital. Dian Temple is very efficacious, and many people go there to pray, but it's rare to see a father and his two sons kneeling together like they did. Yet Li Wanyang's heart was desolate. If the three of them loved her so much, then why did they instinctively run to shield Chen Pingting? Why wouldn't he be at the residence at this moment? Before long, the father and sons hurried back in a rush. They all threw themselves at her bedside, eyes reddened and lips trembling, putting on a performance as heartfelt as could be. Yet not a ripple stirred in her heart. She even thought in a self-destructive way, why should they be sad? Isn't her death exactly what would fulfill their wishes? The father and sons cried for who knows how long. Whatever they said, she didn't take in a single word. Only when the three of them were tired of talking and crying did they notice her abnormal state, stunned in place by the calm and mockery in her eyes. Perhaps remembering the scene with the startled horse, Fang Huiyuan hurried to explain to her, saying that the reason he went to protect Chen Pingting first that day was because she was an honored guest of the Prime Minister's residence, and he feared something might go wrong and be hard to explain. Niang, I'm sorry, I really only feared offending the Prime Minister's household and bringing trouble to us. I had no intention of disregarding your safety. Please forgive me, will you, Mother? Fathers and my concerns are the same. Please forgive us. Mother, Momo's knee hurts so much. Could you rub it for me, please? Seeing that she still didn't respond, the father and sons started swearing oaths again in a daze. Li Wanyan just felt utterly exhausted and utterly bored facing the three men full of lies. What else did she have to say? Whatever she said would probably be unnecessary. She closed her eyes and turned her back, unwilling to face them any longer, and not wanting to hear them lie to her. Seeing her like this, the father and son felt it best to say no more. After sitting for a while, they all left. Over the next few days, as soon as court was dismissed, Fang Huiyuan would come to keep her company. The two children would also run over to see her as soon as they were out of school. Even the messages that came through from Chen Pingting were deliberately ignored by the three of them. Perhaps the long period of being ignored made Chen Pingting restless, and she set her sights on Li Wanyan. From then on, someone would deliver an envelope to the Fang residence every day, addressed to Li Wanyan. Inside, The writing and drawings were all scenes of them getting along like a family. Knowing the truth is one thing, seeing the scene with one's own eyes is another. Li Wanyang felt it was blinding. She forced down her anger so she wouldn't immediately tear those envelopes apart. In the first envelope, Fang Huayuan was holding Chen Pingting under the osmanthus tree, the bright moon overhead. They whispered intimate words and vowed a bond for the next life, truly a picture of mutual love without doubt. In the second envelope, Fang Yuni and Fang Yuni sat around Chen Pingting. Their looks toward her were full of reverence and affection, a display of deep filial devotion. The third envelope, Fang Huayuan, Fang Yuni, Fang Yunmo, and Chen Pingting flying kites together. The four sat in a circle on the grass. What a picture of a loving family. The fourth envelope, the four of them climbed Dian Temple together and hung wish plaques. The smiles on each of their faces seemed so real they might spill off the paper. The fifth envelope, the four of them dining together at a restaurant, passing dishes and caring for one another, a scene of harmony and happiness. And in the last envelope was Chen Pining's birthday. Her husband and children surrounded Chen Pining. Her husband said, "My lady, happy birthday." Her children said, "Mother, happy birthday." 07 tears soaked the envelope, and Li Wanyan instinctively touched her cheek, only to realize she was already streaming with tears. Clearly she was about to return to the palace. Clearly it was she who had decided to leave them. Clearly she had warned herself not to fret over them anymore, no matter how many times she tried to talk herself out of it. She still couldn't fend off the provocation of those images. Her heart ached in fine, dense pangs, hurting so much she could barely breathe. Everyone said Fang Huayuan loved her terribly, that the two children cherished her, but who knew what she had sacrificed for them? Although Fang Huayuan was exceptionally learned, his family background was weak. He couldn't compete with the aristocratic scions at court, let alone hold his own in the treacherous halls of power. It was she who planned again and again, who set arrangements time and time again, who offered counsel repeatedly, who repeatedly humbled herself to use her influence, who repeatedly helped him analyze the situation, who repeatedly protected him. As for the two children, they were won at the cost of half her life. She loved them, raised them, guided them. Her lifetime of most selfless love was given to them, but her wholehearted sincerity did not earn genuine sincerity in return. Instead, it brought their deceit and betrayal. It was truly chilling to the core. Li Wanyang shoved those letters into the box all at once, covering her swollen, reddened eyes. Perhaps because she had been slow to respond, they grew impatient and directly arranged to meet her at Wangxiang Tower. This time, Chen Pingting no longer had that day's meekness and shyness, only flaunting and pride. "Madam, I know you've already seen all the envelopes. Over these past 2 years, Lord Fang and the young master and young miss all liked clinging to me. Whenever something happens they'd come to me. I think you should understand their intentions, right? Why don't you recognize the truth sooner and let everyone save face? Otherwise, if I act, what can you, a powerless orphan, possibly gain?" Fang Huayuan and the others chose her, Chen Pingting, so who allowed Chen Pingting to be so wanton in front of her? Li Wanyang kept a cold face and said, enunciating each word, "Miss Chen, if you want to snatch my things, have you asked for my opinion?" Chen Pingting probably hadn't expected the usually soft and gentle her to have such a stern side, and she immediately flushed with anger. "Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink." Li Wanyang stood up and looked down at her. "Even scraps and leftovers I don't want. No one else may grab them. As for you, kneel and beg me if I'm in a good mood. I might even give you some, who knows? You are." Chen Pingting reached out and slapped Li Wanyang. Li Wanyang caught her wrist and exerted a slight pressure. "You think you can pick a fight with me? You're not even qualified." Chen Pingting couldn't keep her footing and slid down into a chair, trembling as she watched Li Wanyang's departing back. How could this woman, a solitary orphan, possess such formidable authority? She was downright more terrifying than her father. Who on earth gave her the confidence to be so arrogant? Chen Pingting was so enraged she nearly shattered her silver teeth, vowing to take everything from her. Upon returning to the residence, she happened to see Fang Huayuan playing idly with his son and daughter, teasing cats and dogs. Li Wanyang flashed a toothy smile and ordered Baiji to bring the family rod. Everyone in the household trembled with fear, not knowing what mistake they had made. The madam was always kind, but only so long as no one crossed her bottom line. If anyone touched that line, her methods would make one's hair stand on end. Fang Huayuan and the other two, having heard, hurried over and asked who had angered her. She rubbed the box that held the envelopes between her hands, smiling a smile that wasn't quite a smile, and asked, "Do you really want to know?" 08 Fang Huayuan and the children all nodded together. She slapped the box on the table. "No rush, in a few days you'll find out for yourselves. Come on, pin the old master, the young master, and the miss to the ground, give them a taste of family discipline." Wn Niang, what are you doing? Yes, mother, what mistake did we commit? Li Wanyan glanced over them. My family rules punish only those who are disloyal and unfilial, or cruel and unjust. You know in your hearts what you've done. Start. The house servants were too frightened to move. To uphold his strict husband image, Fang Huayuan immediately ordered the servants to act. The house servants, trembling with fear, had finished enforcing the clan's discipline. Seeing their wretched state, Li Wanyang felt much of the anger in her chest dissipate. This is the last time I'm disciplining you. Endure it and cherish it. Leaving those words behind, Li Wanyang, supported by Baiji, returned straight to the bedchamber. The father and his two sons grumbled in grievance. What's wrong with mother? Why is she ignoring us? She even heartlessly had people beat us. That rotten mother. I don't love her anymore. Just then, a servant came to deliver a message. After listening, Fang Huayuan's brows knit slightly. Fang Yuni was instantly intrigued and clamored to go to Chen Pingting's place. Fang Yunmo chimed in from the side. For the grievances I suffered here with mother, I'm going to auntie's to make up for them. So the three of them snuck out of the residence again and hurried off in that direction. Listening to Baiji's report, Li Wanyang's last trace of affection for them faded away completely. If you like their aunt, then be bound to her for life. The next day, Fang Huayuan rested, and the school was also on break. The two children kept insisting on going to Dian Temple to fulfill their vows. Father, take us with you, we also want to. Fang Yuni nearly said the wrong thing. Fang Huayuan hastily signaled him with his eyes to shut up, then went to look at Li Wanyan's expression. Li Wanyang put down the towel she had used to dry her hands, her tone mild. The weather is just right, the whole family should go together. No. Fang Yunmo tugged at her arm, acting spoiled. Mother, your health has always been delicate, that temple is so high, you won't be able to manage. Fang Yunmo grabbed her other arm and shook it. That's right, mother, leave this kind of energy-consuming task to us. You can rest at the residence and wait. The children are right, your body has only just recovered, you shouldn't be traveling. Li Wanyang, however, was very insistent. The blessing was sought for me. To fulfill the vow, I ought to go in person. In the end, the family of four set off for Dian Temple. Dian Temple is located on the outskirts near the Imperial City, built against the mountains and beside the water. A winding path leads into seclusion. Evening drums and morning bells inspire solemn reverence at the site. In the center of the great hall, a towering Buddha statue stands majestically. Amid the curling incense, Li Wanyang kneels on a prayer cushion, her expression devout as she makes a silent wish. Buddha, please bless me. May my ties with Fang Huayuan, Fang Yuni, and Fang Yunmo end here. The father and his two sons knelt beside her, sincerely making wishes that their family would be safe, joyful, and together for a long time. When the blessing ceremony ended, the family went over to draw lots. The monk who interpreted the lots glanced at the three men's slips and said nothing more, only uttering a mittabha. Then his gaze fell on Li Wanyan's lot. This benefactor's lot is the very best, what you ask for will all come true. 09 That night, Li Wanyang sat by the window, admiring the moon. She didn't know why, but lately she had been especially fond of gazing at the moon from the window. Just then, Baiji came in and whispered in her ear, Miss, there are 2 days left before you return to the palace. Her ladyship reminds you to make preparations in advance. Mother Empress, she's probably afraid I'll change my mind, but this time, no matter what, she won't. Send a message back and say I will go on time. At this moment, a bright moon hung in the sky, not a cloud in sight, pure and peerless. Her mood lifted. With it, thinking she could see her father the emperor and her stepmother the empress, and break free from the entanglements with that father and his 3 sons, she even felt faint threads of anticipation. Li Wanyang erased every trace of her life in the Fang residence. She had been at the Fang residence for 7 years, and everything related to her filled 5 whole trunks. The fire roared up. The first thing she threw in was the portrait from their first meeting, the one Fang Huayuan had specially painted to mark the beginning of their intertwined fates. The second thing she tossed in was the oxhorn comb he gave her when he confessed his love. He had said then, "Wn Niang, marry me. I am willing to stand by your side for lifetimes, to protect you, to be faithful to you." The third was the portrait of her painted after their 2 children had started their lessons. She carefully cherished and meticulously saved every little fragment of life. She wanted to wait until they were old and reminisce about the past with Fang Huayuan. Now, they have personally severed the bond between them and her. They have no future anymore. These things no longer need to be kept as treasures. The next day, Li Wanyang took the wooden box and went to the bustling marketplace to visit the opera troupe. "Please use these as material, work quickly, and perform it across the entire capital on the 15th of the 8th month." The troupe leader was extremely surprised. After all, one was the Prime Minister's daughter and the other a high-ranking official of the current court. He could not afford to offend either. Li Wanyan took out the jade pendant that signified her status. Only after she assured them of the troupe's safety did the leader breathe a sigh of relief and agree to take the job. Afterward, she went to the stationery shop and gave them material, urging them to speed up their work to ensure that on the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival, those picture booklets could be circulated. Ideally, 1 copy for every person. The shopkeeper felt the deadline was too tight. Only after Li Wanyan offered extra money twice did they promise to complete the task. The day before she left happened to be Li Wanyan's birthday. Of course it wasn't her real birthday, it was the day they first met, the birthday she wanted to spend with him 7 years ago. Fang Huayuan, brimming with reckless courage, broke into a ring of traffickers and rescued her from her bindings, allowing her to see through the layers of glamour and glimpse the fearless bravery in human nature. It caused her to begin to see life with new understanding. She made an agreement with him that from now on, this day every year would be her birthday. He, in turn, promised to celebrate it with her every year. Early that morning, Li Wanyang washed and dressed as usual, read for a while, and was about to go out for some fresh air when she ran into Fang Huayuan, who had just returned from court. The children had asked for leave from the academy and were sitting obediently in the front hall waiting for her. Li Wanyang looked at the 3 of them for a moment, then they left the mansion together. On the market, merchants, servants, and common townsfolk bustled, the air thick with heat, which warmed Li Wanyang's heart little by little. "Father, mother, how did you 2 meet in the first place?" Fang Yunmo suddenly tilted her head and asked. A trace of nostalgia appeared on Fang Huayuan's face. He had just opened his mouth when a young servant hurried over and whispered a few words in his ear. Fang Huayuan's expression gradually darkened. Through the golden light of the morning sun, Li Wanyang looked at him and felt as if a shallow ravine lay between them, forever too hard to approach or cross. Everything was unfolding just as expected, because she had long since received the letter. "Is your birthday such a big deal? How about we make a bet? With just 1 word from me, I can summon someone over. If you don't dare to bet, you can beg for mercy instead." The outcome was already decided long ago. What was there for her to be afraid to bet on? When she visited the troupe and the bookshop, she had specifically instructed them to include this scene, one that would maximize the dramatic effect. 10 As expected, after hearing about Chen Pingting, Fang Huayuan no longer had the heart to keep her company. She watched him quietly, waiting for his reaction. He hesitated and struggled for a moment, then finally made a decision. Said he had important official business to attend to. When the 2 children saw he was leaving, they immediately caught on. "Let go of my hand," and clamored to go along. "What urgent official business would you bring the children to?" It was nothing more than another deception. She looked steadily at the father and his 2 sons. "Are you all sure you want to go?" The 3 of them nodded emphatically, their attitude resolute. "Then go." A faint curve lifted the corners of her lips. Fang Huayuan exhaled in relief and hurriedly pulled his children away. WN Niang, next time I'll definitely make it up to you with an unforgettable birthday. I promise. Li Wanyang watched their backs and said, Fang Huiyuan, Fang Yuni, Fang Yunmo. The father and his two sons paused instinctively and looked back at her. Just one thing to say to you, take care. The father and his two sons were in a hurry to go to another home and didn't notice anything unusual in her words. Instead, they waved to her and shouted, take care. The crowd surged like a tide, and in an instant swallowed up the figures of the father and his two sons. Li Wanyang stood where she was, gazing in the direction they had gone, her expression unusually calm. She took Baiji with her and wandered through every corner of the market. Back then, she snuck out of the palace for that very taste of street life and common folk. All these years, the bustle of the streets remains as lively as ever, yet the love she chose with her own hands has already withered and decayed. The family bonds she nurtured herself have rotted and gone bad as well. By the time she returned to the residence, it was already near dusk. Even so, the father and sons still hadn't returned. What are they doing at this moment? Accompanying Chen Pingting around the market, watching a shadow play, or perhaps engaging in their own intimate interactions? She instructed Baiji to give everyone in the residence a day off and warned them that, no matter what happened in her courtyard, they were not to come near. At midnight, the people from the palace all hid in the dark corners of the Fang residence, waiting for their princess to arrive. As soon as the high hour began, Baiji immediately came in to report, Miss, oh no, Your Highness, the people to meet you have arrived. Li Wanyang changed into her robe, buttoned up her cloak, and stepped out of the bedchamber. Standing in the courtyard, she glanced over the residence once more, then turned decisively. My courtyard, burn it all, leave not an inch. Yes, flames of orange-red danced in fragments, finally surging into a prairie fire. Li Wanyang turned her back to the blaze and walked away, step by step. Fang Huiyuan, Fang Yuni, Fang Yunmo, our fate ends here. 11 In the house across the street, Fang Huiyuan and Chen Pingting lay in each other's arms. The air beneath the canopy warm and cloying. A cool breeze brought with it a faint osmanthus fragrance that burrowed straight into the nose, making Fang Huiyuan increasingly uneasy. He couldn't help recalling the look on Li Wanyang's face when they parted today, calm, distant, and tinged with sarcasm. How could Wanyang, who loved him so much, look at him like that? Could it be? The unease in Fang Huiyuan's heart grew heavier, and he didn't notice Chen Pingting's hand roaming over him at all. The woman hooked her hands around the man's neck, about to drop a sweet kiss. Unexpectedly, the man suddenly pushed her away and climbed out of bed, hastily putting on his clothes. Husband, Chen Pingting was startled, her head nearly bumping into the bedpost. Fang Huiyuan dressed himself and then hurriedly walked out. Chen Pingting jumped out of bed and shouted, Husband, where are you going? Seeing he didn't slow down, she ran after him barefoot and blocked his way. Are you going to abandon me again? Fang Huiyuan pulled her away. I've got something urgent and need to head back. I'll see you another day. Be good. His cold, stern tone snapped Chen Pingting back to her senses. She simply leaned against the doorway, watching him pick up their children and urge the sedan chair-bearers to leave. The gate closed again, leaving behind only a room of cold silence and her increasingly distorted self. The once empty and silent street suddenly sprang to life. Orange-red light nearly dyed half the sky. People shouted over one another, "There's a fire!" as they ran toward the glow. Fang Huiyuan sat astride his horse, staring toward the flames, his heart dropping with a thud. Wasn't that the direction of his residence? Such a big fire. Where's WN Niang? At the thought of the possible terrible consequences, his whole body swayed, and he almost toppled off his horse head first. The two children were jolted awake by the crowd's agitation and began to sob softly in fright. You think, could it be our house caught fire? Fang Yun Yimo asked, inexplicably worried. She shouldn't. Mother will be fine. Fang Yun's tense jaw betrayed his nerves. The three, father and sons, were torn with inner turmoil, trembling all the way. When they finally reached the gate of the residence, the hope they'd been clinging to died completely. A servant rushed up. Sir, you're finally back. Everyone's waiting for you to make the call. Staring at the courtyard ablaze with firelight, Fang Huiyuan could no longer hold out and toppled straight from his horse. The servants were terrified and scrambled to help him up, They saw his head had been smashed open and was bleeding profusely, truly a ghastly sight. He tumbled and crawled his way into the residence, shouting sternly, "Why didn't you put out the fire? Madam ordered us not to go near no matter what happened, and even gave everyone in the residence a day off." The two children also ran over in a panic, staring at the flames and crying their hearts out. "Mother, mother!" Fang Huiyuan's eyes were bloodshot. Shouting Wan Niang's name at the top of his lungs, he rushed toward the fire. At this moment, he wished the flames would take him too, carry him to Wan Niang's side. It was his fault. He was a bastard. He was a beast. Why had he coveted other women? Why had he been bewitched by women outside? If they hadn't abandoned Wan Niang, if they had stayed with her, the residence might not have caught fire. If that had been the case, his Wan Niang would still be by his side, sitting by the window every night waiting for him, smiling at him, reminding him not to overwork. But now, everything is gone, all of it. Even if he tore his heart apart, even if he cut himself open, he couldn't bring Wan Niang back. Overwhelmed and shaken, Fang Huiyuan spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed in front of the blaze. 12. A servant rushed forward to pull him away, and the fire suppression troops, alerted by the news, quickly entered the scene and began extinguishing the flames. The neighbors who arrived also bustled about, helping to put out the fire. After toiling for half the night, the fire was finally put out, but the courtyard where Li Wanyang lived was also reduced to ashes, a field of ruins, nothing left behind. Fang Huiyuan knelt in front of the wreckage, disheveled and dazed. The neighbors who helped put out the fire spoke words of regret and showed sympathy, but none of them came over to greet Fang Huiyuan. They left in small groups. The soldiers who tended the smoldering embers had been exhausted for a long time and didn't linger. They went off to rest. As the morning court approached, Fang Huiyuan finally moved. He ordered a servant to prepare a carriage. He intended to go and formally request leave in person. He had expected his superiors to show him great sympathy, but they merely treated it as official business and completed the formalities. He felt that something was off, but he didn't have the mind to think too much about it. Back at the residence, he was just about to order the funeral arrangements when he heard a commotion outside. The people from the Yizhuang, dressed in mourning clothes with hemp bands, were already busy putting up white funeral banners and handling other arrangements. Seeing them take matters into their own hands and act without permission, Fang Huiyuan was so angry he could have burst a lung. Fang Huiyuan isn't dead yet. It's not their turn for those disreputable people to step into the hall. Stop right there. Who let you in? The leader, Fang produced a letter of instruction. Master Fang, Madam Fang personally ordered this before she passed. We're just fulfilling her last wish. Last wish? What last wish? Fang Huiyuan rushed over, snatched the thing from that man's hand, and examined it carefully. It was Wan Niang's handwriting, but how could she have known in advance and arranged her own affairs beforehand? Fang Huiyuan could not believe any of this and began to scream hoarsely. Fake, it's all fake. You clearly forged all of this. I'm going to sue you. Fang was furious too. All these years, he had benefited from Madam Fang's kindness and guidance. Without her, he didn't know in which back alley he'd be begging for food. And now, not only did this Fang Huiyuan keep a mistress and drive Madam Fang to her death, he even kept making excuses about handling her funeral. What kind of person is that? He's worse than an animal. Fang eyes widened, his tone chilling. Lord Fang, there are those who dote on concubines and cast aside their wives, and those who favor their mistresses over their lawful wives. Across the land, I fear they are not many. Fang Huiyuan's heart gave a jolt, but he forced himself to remain calm. What do you mean? The literal meaning. Fang no longer looked at him and waved for everyone to continue. Fang Huiyuan wanted to keep stopping them, but a long-lost sense of powerlessness welled up inside him. But the way things actually unfolded went almost entirely beyond his expectations. Nothing should have turned out like this. Yet as for how it should have been, he had no power to change anything. He knew that if he let them handle the funeral arrangements today, his reputation would be completely ruined. But if he didn't let them handle it and the matter reached the Yamen, his reputation wouldn't be salvaged either. It felt as though everything had run into a dead end. For him, choosing or not choosing, acting or not acting, made little difference. The commotion in the mansion woke the sleeping children. They cried and fussed. No matter how the servants tried to soothe them, they rushed to Fang Huayuan's side, tugging at his sleeves and making a continuous racket. "Father, where is Mother? We want Mother. Father, why won't you comfort us? Take us to find Mother. Please, take us, take us." The children simply didn't understand what it meant that their mother had left them forever, and they were even less able to grasp what that implied. 13 Seeing people coming to offer condolences, Fang Huiyuan patiently coaxed them for a long while. When they kept clamoring, he, unusually, lost his temper. The two children were frightened, hunched their shoulders and refused to look at him, their eyes full of grievance and resentment. Back when Mother was around, Father was so kind and gentle to them. Father's being bad. They need to find Mother. The two little ones exchanged a glance and, taking advantage of a moment when Fang Huiyuan was greeting guests, slipped out of the residence unnoticed. Friends and relatives only shook their heads and sighed when they saw him. Not a single person offered him words of comfort. Fang Huiyuan stood before the morning hall, feeling like a sinner, enduring the slow, piercing gaze of everyone. He wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into and hide, but his current status and position would not allow him to do that. He felt himself being pulled by two opposing forces, almost torn apart. He could no longer hold on, fell to his knees, and shouted in a hoarse voice, "WN Niang, how could you bear to leave me and the child? What will the three of us, father and sons, do from now on? WN Niang, I really can't live without you. Will you come back, please? As long as you come back, I can do anything." Fang Huiyuan, "You're crying so heart-wrenchingly, why didn't you go with her?" A cold, angry voice sounded behind him. Fang Huiyuan started and turned his head, only to see Chen Pinting holding two children, openly appearing before him. They had agreed before that, although they both knew the truth, they must never expose their relationship in front of outsiders. She had clearly promised so well back then, so why on earth did she choose this critical moment to break her word? Fang Huiyuan sprang up suddenly, ordered the servant to bring the child over, and then issued an eviction to Chen Pingting. "Miss, the deceased wife has a spirit, please conduct yourself. Spiritual, self-respect." Chen Pingting was so angry she burst out laughing, then directly slammed a stack of scrolls into his face. "What should be hidden? What shouldn't be hidden? None of it can be hidden. Why are you pretending to be so affectionate here?" A flicker of panic flashed through Fang Huiyuan's heart. He hurriedly picked up the scrolls and began flipping through them in a rush. With each page he read, his face turned a shade paler. By the last page, his whole body shook violently, and he collapsed to the ground. How could that be? How could it have been printed into a booklet and spread through every street and alley, so that everyone knows who is it, who exactly wants to harm him? Chen Penting seemed to see through his doubts and snorted coldly, "No need to guess, your virtuous wife personally went to the bookstore and the troop and told them to do it." Fang Huiyuan felt as if struck by 5 thunderbolts. A metallic sweetness surged up his throat again. Chen Penting had no intention of stepping forward to support him. Instead, she looked at his disheveled state, contempt flashing in her eyes. "Since our relationship has been exposed, there's no need to sneak around and hide it anymore. I certainly won't endure any humiliation. My father said that in 10 days you must come to marry me, or else MH." After dropping those words, Chen Pingting turned and left. Fang Huiyuan watched her resolute back, his eyes reddening with hatred. So, all the tenderness and affection before had been an act. This moment reveals her true colors. How ridiculous that he was attracted to and deceived by such a woman, that he betrayed the WN Niang who loved him most for her, and for her, time and again abandoned WN Niang, time and again hurt WN Niang, time and again cast WN Niang aside. If WN Niang hadn't discovered his betrayal, perhaps she wouldn't have died, and his family wouldn't have fallen apart. He was the one who killed WN Niang. He is the heartless man, the executioner. The one who should die is him. 14. After the guests read the storybook and listened to the songs, nothing was as shocking as hearing the person involved admit it in person. When Chen Pingting said the wedding would be in 10 days, it made everyone's scalp tingle even more. Although our dynasty has no explicit regulation on the mourning period for a man's deceased wife, according to ancestral tradition, it is generally observed for 1 year. remarrying 10 days after the wife's death, simply outrageous. These two are birds of a feather, utterly devoid of conscience. I heard Chancellor Chen's household was upright and clean. Now it seems my worldview has been shattered. What the most desirable man to marry in the capital? What henpecked husband? It's all complete nonsense. Tomorrow when I attend court, I will certainly impeach them before His Majesty. Impeach? That old brat's been living off his persona's dividends. I've been fed up with him for a long time. Li Wanyang had previously instructed Fang to only hold the funeral, not the burial. All the ash from burning her entire courtyard had to be swept up and scattered, ensuring not a trace was left. The three of them, father and sons, do not deserve to worship her, much less to grieve and shed tears for her. When Fang Huayuan learned all of this, he no longer had the strength to vomit blood. He only opened his hollow eyes, like a puppet on strings, moving and acting by sheer feeling. He could not hear the crowd's jeers, gossip, and curses. All he could see in his mind was Wn Niang. It was as if only by thinking of Wn Niang could he breathe. Fang Yuni and Fang Yunmo chased after Chen Pingting when she left. Chen Pingting's cold, sharp eyes glared at them, and they were instantly so frightened that they froze on the spot. They couldn't understand how the aunt, gentle as water, could suddenly become so terrifying. The guests saw their behavior and shook their heads repeatedly. If I had to give birth to these two little ingrates, I'd be so furious I'd rather die. Isn't that the truth? Look at their nasty, shameless, clueless faces. I'm an outsider and even I get angry. Li Wanyang treated them so well, and they went behind her back to cozy up to that concubine's daughter, even shamelessly calling that concubine's daughter mother. Heavens, what sons of a gun are these? Poor Wanyang, I can't imagine her suffering. It's murderous, such damnable wrongdoing. As they listened, they gradually understood how much harm their sneaking off to see Chen Pingting had caused Li Wanyan. They also slowly realized that their mother had truly left them, the kind of leaving where she would never come back. The mother who loved them most no longer wanted them because of their betrayal. Fang Yuni suddenly cried out aloud, and Fang Yunmo right after him also wept as if her heart would break. No one comforted them, and no one coaxed them. They were only watched coldly, with countless serves you right muttered in people's hearts. The funeral came in haste and ended just as hurriedly. Fang gathered people and left in a flurry, leaving a mess behind. When the servants of the Fang residence learned the truth, they were especially ashamed of their master and the young master's actions. They all quit their posts, playing cards, drinking, shouting, and gossiping, turning the household into a scene of chaos. Fang Huiyuan wandered through the mansion, searching only for something Wn Niang had left behind, but he searched countless times and didn't find a single trace. He sat on the ground and let out a dry, mocking laugh. Wn Niang truly hated him to the bone. She hadn't even left a single strand of hair behind. He couldn't help wondering, when exactly did she find out? And he, immersed in that fake love, hadn't noticed a thing. If he had even the slightest hint of awareness, would the ending be different? 15. As soon as Li Wanyang entered the palace gates, the emperor and empress came forward to greet her. After carefully examining their daughter for a long moment, the empress couldn't help but shed tears. Even the emperor, who had always been stern and imposing, had eyes that turned slightly red. The empress could no longer restrain herself and pulled Li Wanyang into her arms. Ayu. Li Wanyang was also unable to stop her sobs seeing her family at this moment. She finally understood just how terribly wrong she had been for these 7 years. She ran away from her home for a full 7 years because of an unworthy man. For those 7 years, no one knows how the emperor and empress endured, nor how much her brothers and sisters had to shoulder for her. For this lost and found daughter, the empress doted on her, holding her hand and not wanting to let go for a moment. In the main hall, aside from the eldest and second brothers who were busy with official duties, the other siblings were all present. Li Wanyan recognized them one by one, and the atmosphere gradually warmed. There was none of the reproach or coldness she had expected. The heart that had been hanging in her throat only now began to ease. The empress directly took Li Wanyan back to her own palace. Having not seen her for a long time, she wanted to have a good, proper reunion with this daughter. The emperor was pleased to see it. The other siblings teased and laughed as they escorted them back to the cunning palace, then departed one by one. The mother and daughter talked for a long time again, and the Empress still couldn't help but speak. What are you planning to do with Fang Huiyuan and those two children? Mentioning them, Li Wanyan's eyes were exceedingly calm, as if they were strangers. As for them, the revenge that needed to be taken had already been arranged. As for the future, it was entirely up to their own fate, of course, if they were doing too well. She wouldn't mind trampling on them once in a while. Li Wanyan explained her plan, and after listening, the Empress felt much better. That's good. Your mother was worried that you were too soft on them and would end up exhausted and covered in wounds. Mother, Li Wanyan could no longer hold back. Embracing the Empress and acting spoiled in her arms, soon, news spread through the palace that the long-lost eldest princess had been found and was granted the title Princess Mingyu. Everyone was extremely envious, wishing they could be reborn. Li Wanyang also resumed her original name, Li Yuan, afraid she would remember the past and secretly weep herself sick. Her brothers and sisters did everything they could to cheer her up, and good things were sent to her palace in a steady stream that day. The sisters invited one another to the imperial garden to fly kites, when second Princess Li Yuhe suddenly mentioned, I heard Prince Pingnan is about to come to the capital. Father and mother have been worrying about it for days. Prince Pingnan, Lu Fangjing, won great honors in battle. He is a prince of a different surname passed down from his ancestors, in a noble military family. Maintaining what has been achieved is the hardest task. They had thought the household of a non-imperial prince would gradually decline after the first such prince's fall, but they never expected a later generation to produce the astonishingly gifted Lu Fangjing, master of poetry, lyrics, and prose. I thought he would take the imperial exams and enter officialdom, but unexpectedly he chose the hardest path and abandoned literature for the army. When he first entered the barracks, many people didn't think much of him, including the current emperor, pitying his courage and cherishing his talent. The emperor granted special favor. If ever he doesn't want to stay in the army, he can return at any time, but he, relying solely on his flesh and blood, forged a path that belonged to him. On the strength of his military achievements, his official rank rose again and again. By today, he had become the renowned Prince of Pingnan, surpassing or at least equaling the merits of his ancestors. Li Yuan also looked up at the sky, squinting slightly. Now that the Prince of Pingnan has entered the capital, what exactly does he intend to do? 16. Prince of Pingnan's welcome banquet was the first event Li Yuan attended after returning to the palace. It was also her first public appearance before everyone, and the Empress took it very seriously, reminding her no less than 10 times. She told her that if she felt unwell at any point, she should leave immediately. With the Empress Dowager backing you, go ahead and live as recklessly as you like. Her daughter, doted on in every way, had wasted 7 full years. Whenever she thought of it, her heart ached. Mother and daughter entered the hall hand in hand. No matter how curious the onlookers were, none dared stare openly except Prince Pingnan Lu Fangjing, who ogled without restraint, utterly unconcerned. The Empress saw this and a sudden discontent rose in her heart. Her expression immediately turned unpleasant. Li Yuan patted her hand and gave her a reassuring, faint smile. Her gaze drifted over Lu Fangjing, and through the rumors she re-examined the man. His attitude was respectful. He presented many rare treasures to the Emperor and Empress, and the siblings each received a share. Li Yuan added another note to her impression of him: courteous, meticulous, and socially adroit. The banquet atmosphere was harmonious and steady, with ruler and ministers praising each other in turn. At the height of the hosts' and guests' enjoyment, Lu Fangjing suddenly knelt in the center of the great hall and offered to hand over the military tally. Generals who command large forces have always been subject to imperial suspicion, all the more so someone like Lu Fangjing, who holds the 50 myriad Pingnan army. A headache that had long plagued the emperor suddenly ceased to be a lurking threat. Everyone in the hall looked at one another, stunned by Prince of Pingnan's audacity and nerve. After the surge of elation, the emperor abruptly regained his composure. He's willing to give up the tally for 500,000 elite troops. How could his aims be anything small? The emperor stepped down from the dais, took Lu Fangjing by both hands to help him up, and feigned annoyance. You have expanded the realm for the court and rendered outstanding military service. I trust you completely. As for handing over the command tally, let's not bring it up again." However, Lu Fangjing was very insistent and insisted on turning in the command tally. The emperor flung his sleeve and left his seat. The empress, her face full of concern, followed closely after. Li Yuan left the main hall with her attendants, and upon turning the corner, she ran into Lu Fangjing. After exchanging courtesies, she was about to depart when he called out to stop her. "Your Highness, I trust you have been well." 17 After so many years apart, the bonds of youth have long since been washed away by time. Li Yuan did not feel there was any friendship between them worth reminiscing about. "Does the princess know why I must surrender my military command?" "I do not." "Does the princess seem to hold quite a prejudice against me?" "No." He let a faint smile curve his lips. "When we meet next time, I hope the princess won't be so sparing with her words toward me." Li Yuan watched his tall, imposing figure from behind, the doubts in her heart growing ever deeper. This person seems to be coming for her, but that shouldn't be the case. On the way back, she racked her brains but couldn't think of any memories between them worth cherishing. During dinner that night, the emperor and the empress both wore gloomy expressions, and the empress several times seemed about to speak but held back. Li Yuan roughly guessed a bit and asked, "Could it be that the condition proposed by the Prince of Pingnan has something to do with me?" The empress's worried look grew more obvious. She pulled her into her arms. You don't need to worry about these truths. With me and your father the emperor here, we will never let you be wronged again." The emperor also set down his chopsticks and feigned ease. "Your mother is right. I rule over the 4 seas. How could I allow my children to be wronged? As for the matter of the Prince of Pingnan, I have my own plans." After the emperor and empress left, Li Yuan called for a palace maid and inquired about the Prince of Pingnan's whereabouts. "Report to Princess Chang. Since Prince Pingnan left the banquet he has entered the imperial study twice. The first time there was the sound of a cup being smashed, the second time tonight, again the sound of a cup being smashed. Prince Pingnan did not leave the palace tonight, he stayed over. A prince of another clan staying overnight. Could it be that he has taken a fancy to one of the young ladies? But several of the young ladies are already betrothed. Is Prince Pingnan trying to steal someone away?" The next day, during breakfast, Li Yuan again probed the empress for information and confirmed that the Prince of Pingnan was indeed proposing marriage. But the empress refused to reveal which younger sister it was no matter what. By chance a few of her younger sisters had arranged to stroll through the garden with her, and she took advantage of the walk to bring up the Prince of Pingnan. With each of them to test their reactions unexpectedly, all the sisters reacted strongly, treating him like a scourge to be avoided. "Big sister, please don't mention him again. I'm afraid I'll have nightmares tonight. Everyone knows his methods are cruel. Stay close to him and nothing good will come of it. But he has glorious battle achievements and has rendered meritorious service to our dynasty. The common people misinterpret him. How could we misunderstand him?" Li Yuan couldn't comprehend her sister's reactions. "Oh, dear sister, let's go over there and pick the laurels. Let's not mention him again, just a wall away." Those words, carried by the wind, drifted exactly into Lu Fangjing's ears as he stood under the tree. Some distant memories pierced the corridor of time and resurfaced in my mind. That Lu kid is really clueless. We were being kind inviting him to hang out, and he actually put on airs. Exactly, he's a nobody fallen from grace, and he dares act all high and mighty. He's asking for trouble. You lot, go tie him up and bring him here. I want to teach him a lesson. Wait, that brat has also offended me. I've already sent people to teach him a lesson. You must not ruin my plans. Yes, Your Highness the Princess, if Your Highness needs us, we would die 1,000 deaths without hesitation. Leave him to me. From now on, you are forbidden to touch him, openly or secretly. If anyone gets caught and evidence is brought before the Emperor, you'll suffer for it, and your elders won't spare you either. Understood? Princess Chang of Xie, 18, to retrieve the military tally for her father without dragging her younger sisters into it. Li Yuan thought it over and decided she could only offer herself instead. So, upon hearing that the Prince of Pingnan would be staying in the palace for half a month, She proactively sent in a visiting card. The reply came quickly over there. Agreeing to the appointment, Li Yuan hurried to the moon-embracing pavilion, where Lu Fangjing was already standing in the pavilion waiting. Today, he was draped in a water-blue fox fur cloak. Just his silhouette from behind was enough to make one's heart flutter. Even Li Yuan, who was used to the elegant young gentleman of the Celestial Empire, couldn't help but inwardly admire him a little. Feeling that he truly was heaven's favorite, Lu Fangjing heard her footsteps but did not turn around. Instead he preemptively spoke first. "What matter does the chief princess summon me for?" Thinking he would not develop any feelings for her, Li Yuan walked slowly to his side, stood shoulder to shoulder with him, and gazed out over the pond full of lotus flowers. "You've come for the military token, Prince. You don't mind, do you? Oh, do tell." Since the prince is willing to hand over the token, he should cut the Gordian knot quick, lest the night drags on and complications multiply. "I'm not a greedy man, I only ask for one thing," but His Majesty simply refuses to agree. All the younger sisters are engaged. If we publicly break off the engagements for the sake of the military tally, what would become of the imperial family's face? His imperial father would probably be drowned in a sea of spittle. Silencing the people is harder than damming a river. How could father possibly agree so easily? After pondering for a while, Li Yuan spoke slowly. "Your Highness, why not propose a different condition?" Lu Fangjing suddenly turned his head and stared hard into her eyes. "The princess also thinks I should change the terms." Li Yuan was not naturally of a good temper. It was only because she was royal and upbringing forbade her from being too violent. But ever since experiencing the betrayal of Fang Huayuan and his two sons, the rules and restraints in her heart had begun to loosen. Today, provoked by the Prince of Pingnan, the violence in her nature leaked out. She glared at him fiercely, her eyes full of burning fury. "Lu Fangjing, I advise you not to go too far. My father is old and can't take the shock, and those younger sisters are too young to withstand your cruelty. If you have any grievances, take them out on me. Don't make things difficult for them, okay?" The palace attendants standing nearby were so frightened they didn't dare breathe, afraid that if their mistress displeased him, they would be implicated. After Lu Fangjing heard Li Yuan's words, his expression immediately relaxed, and the murderous aura around him abruptly receded. His expression was somewhere between a smile and not. "Coming for me, truly, truly, very well. I've long admired the lotus flowers in the pavilion. Princess, would you pick one for me?" He actually treated her like a flower-picking maid, but she did have a favor to ask of him. Li Yuan grit her teeth, spat out, "Just you wait." Then boarded the small boat with the palace attendants and rowed toward the center of the lake. Lu Fangjing sat in the pavilion sipping tea and eating snacks, but his gaze kept following that figure in the heart of the lake. The deputy general was quite worried and couldn't help speaking up. "Your Highness, if you act like this, won't the princess hold a grudge against you?" Lu Fangjing didn't answer. Inwardly he was indignant. Who told her she was blind, actually fell for such a fickle thing, and even hid her identity and swallowed her pride for 7 years. She would rather fancy such a wimp, yet never noticed the man who had been by her side all along. From this day on, he will firmly occupy her mind, whether it's hate or love. He doesn't want to miss her again. 19 Li Yuan had been furious at first, but upon seeing the beautiful scene of the lotus-filled pond, her anger gradually dissipated, and she couldn't help but recall her youthful days. Back then, she was the carefree, universally adored eldest princess. She had none of those worldly worries, only the abandon and exhilaration of life. She and a few of her imperial brothers made a racket every day. When trouble arose, they would cover for her, and she was never punished. Especially the lotus pond by this moon-catching pavilion. She'd snuck into it more times than she could count. Every time her mother was about to scold her, she would present a lotus flower, and her mother's anger would turn to delight. When Baiji offered to pick the lotuses for her, she stopped her back on the shore, just as she had when she was little. She handed the lotus to Lu Fangjing. Since she had something to ask of him now, it wouldn't hurt to go along with him a little. Sure enough, when Lu Fangjing looked at the lotus flower in her hand, the tense line of his jaw inexplicably softened. Seeing that he was slow to take the lotus, Li Yuan stepped forward and handed it over. directly stuffing the flower into his arms. She clearly felt his body tense up in an instant. He thought he hadn't married yet, so he might still have feelings for one of her sisters. Li Yuan instantly felt she had been careless, hurriedly withdrew her hand, glanced away, and awkwardly muttered an apology. Lu Fangjing held the lotus. The deputy general reached to take it, but he turned slightly and declined. What will the princess do next to make me change my mind? Looking at his annoyingly provoking expression, Li Yuan felt a furious itch at her teeth and patiently shot back. I'm not a worm inside your stomach. How would I know what you like? If you wanted to be efficient, you could have just told me. I like things straightforward and decisive, it seems. The princess still lacked sincerity. Then, after saying that, he stood up and started to walk out of the pavilion. Li Yuan shouted, "Stop!" Lu Fangjing did not stop walking. Li Yuan had no choice but to send someone to intercept his deputy and extract all his preferences. That evening, Li Yuan sat by the window, holding Lu Fangjing's list of preferences, studying them one by one. Beiji came in carrying an incense burner. Seeing her like that, she couldn't help but complain, "Your Highness, why do you have to care so much about that man? Have you forgotten?" Realizing she'd misspoken, Beiji hurriedly fell silent, but Li Yuan understood what she meant. Instead of scolding her, she explained, "Don't worry, he can't hurt me." From Fang Huayuan and those two children, she grasped a truth. No one can truly hurt you unless you personally hand them the right to do so. From now on, whether it's love or hate, or even a heart sealed in cement, she would be the one to seize the upper hand. Unless she allowed it, no one would even think of hurting her. Li Yuan took a famed sword she had chosen from her father the Empress storeroom to find Lu Fangjing. At that moment, he was practicing his sword in the courtyard. His sword moves flash like lightning and race like the wind, dashing and valiant, with momentum surging like a rainbow. No wonder he's achieved so much at such a young age, truly a heaven-sent prodigy. Li Yu watched quietly, and only when he drew his stance to a close did she have someone announce their presence. "Prince of Pingnan, take a look at the gift I brought today. Are you satisfied?" Lu Fangjing looked at the sword lying in the box. The blade was simple and grand. Even from a distance one could feel the strong sword qi emanating from it. More importantly, this was a treasure kept by successive emperors, a Longquan sword. He personally closed the box, his expression revealing nothing. "I appreciate the princess's intent. You'd better take the sword back with you." Li Yuan, full of enthusiasm, was doused with a bucket of cold water and instantly felt somewhat annoyed. "Why are you so moody? I worked all morning, and you say no just like that." "If you say no, then fine. Where does that leave my face? Whether you accept this sword today or not, you will accept it." 20. For a time, the two stood with swords drawn and bows strained, on the verge of coming to blows. In the end, Lu Fangjing was the first to back down. He suppressed his anger and ground his teeth. As he spoke, "Li Yuan, do you sincerely want me dead?" Li Yuan kept a cold face and pretended indifference. "What if I said I do?" Lu Fangjing seemed to have taken a 10,000-point critical hit, staggering back a few steps. "Why? I want to know the reason. Answer my question first." Fine, be that way. Then I'll tell you now, since you want me dead. Come do it yourself. Don't send someone else. Don't say I didn't warn you." Having said that, he turned and left. His back was full of despair and loneliness. Li Yuan stared at his retreating figure, her eyes inexplicably growing warm. She instinctively touched the corner of her eye and realized she was crying. She didn't hurry to leave until his figure had completely disappeared. Beiji looked at her mistress with concern, feeling that there was always some unspoken sentiment between her and Prince Pingnan. Beiji shook her head and quickly prayed that she was mistaken. Her family's princess had eaten her fill of the bitterness of love. She certainly did not want any man to move back into the princess's heart. After a long while, Li Yuan finally moved. She did not turn back to the palace, but followed in Lu Fangjing's footsteps and rushed after him. Pushing the door open, she saw the man who was always imposing and domineering now lying collapsed by the desk, his whole being exuding a sense of brokenness and desolation. "Get out." It was like a beast's low growl, full of struggle and pain. Li Yuan was surprised that she could read his emotions so precisely. She waved Beiji and the others away. then stepped toward the man lying on the ground. Struggling in despair, she crouched down beside him, looking at his profile, and slowly spoke, "It's me." Hearing her, Lu Fangjing felt all the barbs around him retract, but he did not turn to look at her. It was as if to say, "You were all hoping I'd die, why are you here now? To see whether I'm dead." Li Yuan was amused by his awkwardness. She slowly reached out her hand and touched his cheek. The man turned his head, flames whirling in his eyes. "Are you a female Azura? Why are you so heartless to me? For that good-for-nothing? You love him with complete devotion." He knew this wasn't the time to haggle over such things, but he couldn't help the sourness rising in his stomach, so sour his teeth felt like they might fall out. Li Yuan was certain he wouldn't hurt her. She hauled him up from the ground and had him sit facing her. She stared into his eyes as if peering into the depths of his heart, and began to reveal her true feelings to him. "Do you know, I have always been afraid that someone would hurt Father Emperor and Empress Dowager. As I grew older, this fear grew stronger, when more and more eyes fixed on me, spying on the affection Father Emperor and Empress Dowager show me, testing my standing in their hearts. My fear peaked. I even thought that as long as I disappeared, they could no longer use me to bargain with Father Emperor and Empress Dowager, would not use me to hurt them. So I ran away, to a place where no one knows me, to a place I thought would keep Father Emperor and Empress Dowager safe. So, you think I came because of your father and mother?" Li Yuan nodded blankly, still immersed in those emotions. Seeing her like this made Lu Fangjing's heart ache. He slowly reached out his arms and drew her into his embrace. "Silly girl, I came for you and you alone." 21 Within a single day, her emotions swung wildly. After returning to her sleeping chamber, Li Yuan was completely dazed. Baiji looked at her and kept shouting in her heart, "It's over, it's over." Her master seems to have been struck by love again. By contrast, Lu Fangjing was radiant and full of vigor, as if even his hair exuded joy. He requested an audience with the emperor, but the emperor, thinking he had come to haggle, refused outright. However, upon hearing that Lu Fangjing had a beaming face, he called him in. He wanted to see what good fortune the brat had run into to be showing off like that before him. As soon as Lu Fangjing entered the hall, he performed the proper ceremonial bow and, notably well behaved, greeted the emperor. The emperor stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. Lu Fangjing didn't mind and went on, "Your Majesty, let's discuss the matter of handing over the military token." The emperor was even more bewildered and hastily waved his hand to refuse. "With those conditions, I will not agree. Give up that thought, but I achieved my wish by my own strength. Your Majesty cannot go back on your word." The emperor sprang to his feet, storming up to him like a gust of wind, grabbed his collar. "Explain yourself, what do you mean by agreed by strength? Who authorized you to go find AU on your own, facing the wrath of the current Son of Heaven?" Lu Fangjing showed not the slightest fear. "I didn't go to find her, she came to find me." The emperor tightened his fist. "You brat, what are you saying? How dare you slander the purity of my AU?" Lu Fangjing sighed helplessly. "Your Majesty, even though you are the emperor and will one day be my father-in-law, you still have to be reasonable, don't you?" The emperor flung him off in fury, gritting his teeth. In your dreams, Li Yuan was reclining on the couch, pondering the events of the past days, when the empress hurried into the bedchamber and took her hand, her face full of pity. "My child, your mother has said she will never let you suffer again. As long as you say no, I'll go to your father the emperor right now and have him stand up for you." "Mother, what are you talking about?" The empress sighed. "I knew that Prince Pingnan came with ill intent. Under the pretense of handing over the military token, his first aim was to forcefully ask to marry you. Your father refused. So he requested an audience a second time, saying that if you would only give your consent, your father would have no choice." "Foolish child, why did you agree to him? Did he use tricks to coerce or entice you? Tell your mother, and I will decide for you." So he had been coming for her from the very beginning. Li Yuan couldn't clearly name what she felt. She clasped the empress's hand in return. "Mother, I have been so willful and unruly, and you never blamed me. You've still treated me so well. You truly are the best mother in the world." On hearing this, the empress's expression eased a little, and she looked less anxious. Lu Fangjing is quite good, everything was of my own free will. Mother, you don't need to worry about me. The Empress still wasn't at ease. Li Yuan smiled and said, with my temperament, do you really think I'd be the one to suffer grievances? The Empress was amused, and the atmosphere immediately relaxed. Recently, rumors began circulating in the streets that the newly titled Princess Mingyu bore a striking resemblance to Fang Huayuan's late wife. Some even boldly speculated that Princess Mingyu was in fact Fang Huayuan's deceased wife. Before long, the news reached the Fang residence. The servants gathered together and whispered among themselves. Fang Huayuan, clutching a wine jar and drunk as a skunk, suddenly sobered up and staggered toward the palace gate. 22. Disheveled and filthy, he was stopped outside the palace gate. He threw a tantrum, rolling on the ground and refusing to leave, repeatedly shouting that he wanted to see the eldest princess because he holds an official rank. The guards didn't use heavy-handed tactics on him. After throwing the man far away, they sent someone in to report. The emperor was simmering with anger, but he was busy with Prince Pingnan and the tally of command and hadn't yet had time to deal with it. Hearing that he had actually delivered himself to the door, the emperor immediately stopped being polite. The eunuch bearing the imperial decree personally made a trip, sternly reprimanded Fang Huayuan, demoted him by 1 rank, and gave him 20 strokes. When he was carried back to the residence, the servants were all stunned. Especially the 2 children, who were so terrified they couldn't even cry. Back when their mother was around, they never had to worry about everyday trifles. Everything was arranged in perfect order. They only needed to attend school and enjoy life. But ever since mother was gone, their lives had become a complete mess. Even getting 3 meals a day had become a problem. They went to father, but he was extremely impatient, even harsh with them, shouting at them and telling them not to bother him. They were terrified and secretly went to Aunt Chen for help, but Aunt Chen greeted the 2 of them with sneering mockery, completely lacking the kindness and warmth she once had. Oh, look, the 2 little ungrateful brats are here. Who gave you the nerve to think I would take good care of you? If your own mother doesn't love you but instead comes groveling to your father's mistress, have you 2 had your heads kicked by a donkey? If you know what's good for you, you'd better get out quietly. Otherwise, don't blame me for slapping you. Fang Yuni and Fang Yunmo couldn't accept her sudden change in attitude and cried out, but back then, why were you so good to us? Was all your kindness to us fake? Chen Pingting sneered, guards, throw these 2 idiots out. While you're at it, teach them a lesson so they can think carefully about who has truly been the best to them. The 2 youngsters were slapped, kicked into a pile of mud, and dirted all over. The man spit at the 2 of them, a look of disdain on his face, muttering curses under his breath. As the saying goes, a child without a mother is as cheap as grass. You both still study the teachings of sages, yet you don't understand such a trivial truth. You deserve not having a mother's love, cheaper than grass, fit only to be among mud and filth. Without a mother, your hard days are only just beginning. Fortunately, they will be reborn. If this were among the poor, dying mother would mean they'd end up as abducted children, just those 2, and they even had the nerve to come looking for a mistress. If they were mine, I'd have drowned them at birth. Fang Yuni and Fang Yunmo lay in the mud, their eyes staring at the sky filled with desolation. Only after a long time did a faint crying sound arise. Mother, Moa misses you. Where are you? Do you really not want Moa anymore? Moa truly knows they were wrong. Sob, woo-woo. Mother, ye also knows he was wrong. Ye begs you to come back. Ye really can't live without you. 23. The Prime Minister's residence sent people to the Fang residence again to press them, urging Fang Huayuan to go and propose with betrothal gifts. Fang Huayuan didn't even meet them. He directly ordered the gatekeeper to drive them away. Go back and tell your master's household that the Fang residence has only 1 mistress. It was her before, it is her now, and it will be her in the future. While the servant went to relay the message, Chen Pingting was cutting flowers with a pair of scissors. At the words, she snipped the stem with a click, a cold laugh escaping her lips. So chaste and loyal, where was she back then? Men, they just like to be self-righteous, always only regret after losing something. It's a pity, by then it's all too late. Some things, once done, there is no turning back. If Fang Huayuan thinks he can easily get rid of me, he's dreaming. she threw down the scissors, called her attendant Hongxiu and instructed, "Go, tell my father, just say I'm pregnant." Hongxiu obeyed and left, her eyes full of confusion and regret. She just couldn't understand. The young lady she served, brilliant since childhood, once had a bright and dazzling future, so why did she insist on rushing to become someone else's husband's mistress, and why stir up a citywide scandal, ruining her own reputation beyond redemption? When the Prime Minister learned she had become someone's mistress, he flew into a rage and was ready to beat her to death, but she somehow managed to slip from under his hand and escape the jaws of death. What's more, she's even more brazen than before. No one can persuade her, and no one can control her. I truly don't know what kind of tragedy will erupt if this keeps going. Red Sleeves thought of this and felt her steps grow heavier in the blink of an eye. It was the day Chen Pingting was to be married. She rose before dawn, sat before the bronze mirror, and washed and dressed herself. After going through all the steps, she didn't feel tired. Instead, a radiant light shone in her eyes. The Prime Minister and the others all considered her a disgrace, and none of her clan or relatives came to help outfit her. She didn't care at all, only staring into the mirror and murmuring to herself, "Finally waited long enough." Those gathered in front of the Prime Minister's mansion were all pointing and whispering because no one from the Fang household had come to fetch the bride. Lord Fang must be regretting it by now, right? He still has the nerve to feel regret. Who doesn't know he took the child and kept his affair with the concubine hidden from his lawful wife? Feeling regret now, where was he before? Exactly. Belated affection is cheaper than grass. It's just a pity for Mrs. Fang, such a good person, gone just like that. Isn't that the truth? I heard she had been sponsoring the charity hall all these years. Who knows how many poor children she saved? Alas, heaven is unjust. Why do good people receive no reward? With the auspicious hour about to pass, Chen Pingting rose slowly, put on her embroidered shoes, and walked out of the courtyard to the bridal sedan chair. Those around her were stunned by her audacity. She was completely oblivious, climbed into the sedan chair by herself, ordered the procession to set off, and headed straight for the Fang residence. I've seen grooms rush to snatch the bride, but never the bride's side rushing to deliver her to the groom's door. A marvel for the ages. Utterly against all propriety, no matter how loudly they shouted their disapproval. It didn't stop everyone from reveling in the spectacle. A mighty crowd swept along and actually followed all the way to the Fang residence gates. In front of the Fang residence, white funeral banners fluttered, cold and grim. The onlookers saw this scene and their faces changed. Could it be that the Fang residence is holding another funeral? The little servant had clearly been instructed in advance. Seeing the bridal sedan stop, he immediately stepped forward to block the way. "Make way, make way. Today is the day my lady returns in spirit. If anyone blocks my lady's path back, my master has ordered it. There will be no end until death." 24. The onlookers scattered in fright, and even the sedan chair-bearers backed off half a mile. Chen Pingting lifted the sedan curtain and got out on her own, calling out to the Fang residents, "What a coincidence. Fang Huiyuan, I, Chen Pingting, am sworn to be at odds with you for life. As long as I live for a day, your ingratitude and heartlessness will be spat upon by the world for a day. As long as I'm alive, don't even think about clearing your name. Come on, smash the door." The escorting lackeys didn't want to either, but their indenture contracts were clenched in Chen Pingting's hand, so they had no choice but to obey. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the Fang residence's main gate crashed down with a thunderous boom, sending dust billowing into the sky. Chen Pingting, clad in a blazing red wedding dress, stepped slowly into the Fang household. The guests watched this scene, so shocked their jaws nearly hit the floor. The women of this Prime Minister's residence are a bit too fierce. I'm afraid Fang Huiyuan's days ahead are going to be tough soon. The news reached the palace. Fearing that Li Yuan would be affected if she found out, the Empress and the others ordered a strict ban on palace staff discussing it. Therefore, Li Yuan still did not know that Fang Huiyuan had been forced to marry Chen Pingting. Nor did she know that Fang Huiyuan had once sought an audience with her at the palace gate. Since she had confessed her feelings to Lu Fangjing, she felt as if she had shed a layer of skin and finally breathed fresh air. Her whole being now radiated new vitality. Seeing her mistress's complexion growing increasingly rosy, Baiji couldn't help but be happy for her and no longer mentally resisted the Prince of Pingnan that day. Just after Li Yuan had finished breakfast, Lu Fangjing pulled her out of the palace. Since returning to the palace, this was Li Yuan's first time leaving it. Although she had spent many years outside the palace, seeing the sights beyond its gates again still felt novel. Perhaps it was a change in her state of mind, but she found herself increasingly drawn to the bustling, everyday life of the streets along the way. Whenever her gaze lingered on something for more than a moment, Lu Fangjing would send someone to buy it and present it to her. Even though she had been hurt before, she still found it hard to refuse such blunt favor and preferential treatment. She was afraid these blessings were too precious for her to deserve, so she couldn't help but remind him, "Prince, if this keeps up, I really will take you seriously." Lu Fangjing picked up a hibiscus, tucked it into her hair at her temple, his movements and expression both careful and gentle, as if afraid of hurting her. "Am I not being obvious enough?" His gaze, burning and bright, like the warm sun of spring, was enough to shine into the deepest part of one's heart. Li Yuan, as if afraid of being scorched, slowly lowered her head, avoiding his eyes. "I've been married before, and I even had a child. No need to say more." I'm afraid he was scared off. After all, in most people's minds, a woman's chastity is above all else. If she's been married and had children, she's no longer deemed worthy of chastity. Even if she is of imperial blood, it's still a stain others will criticize and pick at. She herself doesn't care, and she doesn't believe that losing chastity is enough to negate a woman. But the world is such, and she could hardly change it. Yet things seemed different from what she had expected. Not only was Lu Fangjing not frightened away, he took advantage of the situation and gripped her hands tightly. Her heart leapt, and she instinctively tried to pull away, but he forced her to meet his gaze. A woman's chastity does not lie beneath her skirts. A woman's worth is certainly not measured by what happens in bed. Princess, please do not belittle yourself. 25. Dad, you finally agreed to leave the palace. I've missed you so much. A little girl squeezed through the crowd and threw herself into Lu Fangjing's arms. Judging by her appearance, she was probably 6 or 7 years old. Lu Fangjing took the chance to pull her into his arms, his expression full of indulgent affection. Li Yuan watched their interaction, a faint pang of bitterness rising in her heart. He already has a child this big, then what about his wife? What kind of person is she? And what kind of past do they share? This kind of thing. 1 day ago, she wouldn't have cared, but just now, Lu Fangjing said such words to her, and the wounded, hole-pierced heart of hers began to heal rapidly. That kind of warmth and note, Chinese, translates to shock or stir. She desires to possess it, and does not want to let it go. Seemingly seeing through her emotions, Lu Fangjing handed Lu Nianyu over to the nurse for care, then leaned in and teased softly in her ear. Jealous, Li Yuan awkwardly tried to cover it up, stubbornly denying it. Lu Fangjing was in a very good mood. "All right, I won't tease you. Nianyu is my eldest brother and sister-in-law's daughter, and now she's my daughter." Li Yuan's heart trembled, and only then did she remember that his eldest brother and sister-in-law had died on the battlefield. He must have been in so much pain at the time. Her movements were faster than her awareness. By the time she realized it, she was already holding his hand, a silent comfort, inexplicably warming the heart. The cold hardness and fragility in Lu Fangjing's eyes slowly receded, and gentleness resurfaced. Lu Nianyu squeezed over again, pressing up against Li Yuan's side, taking her other hand and looking at her affectionately. "Pretty auntie, when you marry father, can I call you Mama?" Li Yuan felt a slight jolt in her heart and instinctively wanted to refuse, but looking at the longing in her eyes, she inexplicably nodded. Lu Nianyu was overjoyed, rubbing her cheek against her arm, her voice soft and clinging. "Mama, auntie, please don't be angry. I haven't called anyone mother for so long. I was just getting used to it in advance." Li Yuan was debating whether to correct him when Lu Fangjing murmured in her ear, "She grew up never having seen her mother. She dreams of having a mother." At that moment, the aching turned tangible, making Li Yuan's heart go sour. So it turned out that in this world, there are still children who long for a mother's company. She crouched down, speaking earnestly and solemnly. I allow you to call me that, if you want." Upon hearing this, Lu Nianyu was so happy she could hardly speak coherently, and she kept crying out "mother" many more times. Li Yuan melted with tenderness toward her, and without hesitation lifted her into her arms. "Come on, mother will take you to buy nice things." Lu Nianyu clapped her hands, cheering aloud, her eyes crinkling into two crescent moons. Lu Fangjing stayed close to the two of them, protecting them. As soon as the three entered the auction venue, they immediately drew envious looks from the crowd. A happy, harmonious family of three. Fang Huiyuan somehow got the news and actually followed along with a child in tow. When he looked closely at Li Yuan, he was utterly certain she was his Wn Niang, but she was holding someone else's child. Another man stood protectively by her side. They said that man was Prince Pingnan. Someone even the emperor feared. Fang Huiyuan stared at Lu Fangjing, and for the first time, inferiority sprouted in his heart. When Wn Niang was by his side, with her encouragement he was directionless, thinking himself the most handsome, extraordinarily fortunate man under heaven. But after losing Wn Niang, he realized he was useless. It was her love that gave him the confidence to face the world. Losing her, he panic-strickenly discovered he was not that brave, not that brilliantly talented. 26. Mother. Fang Yuni and Fang Yunmo broke free from Fang Huiyuan and dashed desperately toward Li Yuan. Fang Huiyuan didn't stop them, but followed closely behind, because he also wanted an excuse to get closer to his Wn Niang. He always believed that even if she was ruthless with him, she would never be ruthless with the children. The two children hadn't gotten close when they were stopped by Prince Pingnan's guards. Their mother, whom they longed for, was so close yet unreachable. The two children refused to accept it and began to shout loudly, "Mother, mother, turn around and look at us. Why are you ignoring us? Mother, why are you holding another child? Mother, don't you want us anymore? Mother, look back, look at us." Li Yuan did not turn around. Instead, Lu Nianyu lay against her shoulder, staring at them with her big black eyes, curiously taking them in, and couldn't help whispering to herself, "Don't they have a mother? If they do, then they're as pitiable as I was, but I'm no longer pitiable now, because I have a mother." Lu Fangjing glanced back at Fang Huiyuan, then took Li Yuan into the private room. Li Yuan couldn't help but recall the last time Fang Huiyuan had lavishly spent a fortune here for Chen Pingting. Lost in thought, she heard Lu Nianyu's voice, "Mother, come look, what is this?" Li Yuan followed her finger and saw a set of ruby hair ornaments placed in front of her, brilliant and dazzling, captivating the heart. "This," Lu Fangjing picked up the ruby hairpin and handed it to her. "Try it on, see if you like it." Seeing that she didn't move for a long while, Lu Fangjing said, "Forgive me," then personally pinned the hairpin into her hair. Lu Nianyu smoothly raised a bronze mirror before her and couldn't help praising, "Mother, you look so beautiful. I'm truly blessed to have met such a beautiful mother." Li Yuan was amused by her innocence and couldn't help but smile in that instant. The light shimmered, breathtakingly beautiful. Fang Huiyuan sneaked in with two children and just happened to witness this scene. Fang Yuni rushed over at once, pushing Lu Nianyu aside and trying to pounce into Li Yuan's arms. Li Yuan reacted quickly with keen eyes and hands, supporting Lu Nianyu while avoiding Fang Yuni. Fang Yuni lost his balance and fell to the ground. He got up, looked at Li Yuan, his face full of disbelief. "Mother, why are you protecting her and not me?" Li Yuan looked at him, recalling his ungrateful deeds. Her eyes instantly turned cold. "You've mistaken me for someone else. I'm not your mother." Fang Yunmo rushed over and grabbed the hem of Li Yuan's clothes. "You're lying. You're our mother. Why won't you acknowledge us? You have your own mother. I truly am not your mother. Please leave." Seeing that she still refused to acknowledge them, the two children started crying again. Aggrieved, Li Yuan, irritated by their meddling, directly had Fang Huiyuan brought in. "Take the child back. If there's a next time, don't blame me for being ruthless." This was the first time since she returned to the palace that she deliberately displayed her status in front of others. Seeing the coldness in her eyes, Fang Huiyuan's heart suddenly clenched with a sharp pain, and his whole body couldn't help but convulse. His gentle lady no longer loved him, and would never love him again. 27. Sensing her low spirits, Lu Fangjing suggested returning to the palace and coming out to stroll another day. Although Lu Nianyu was very reluctant, she still obediently listened and followed the governess back. Before leaving, she whispered in Lu Fangzheng's ear, "Father, you must pull yourself together and marry mother as soon as possible." Lu Fangzheng scratched her nose and handed her over to the governess. After returning to the palace, Li Yuan fell ill. The empress was deeply distressed and scolded Prince Pingnan for causing trouble by taking her out of the palace without permission. Lu Fangzheng was also very remorseful and kept admitting his mistakes. Given his good attitude, the empress and the emperor did not pursue the matter further. Half-dazed, Li Yuan felt as if she had returned to her childhood. Back then, she was passionate and radiant, unmistakably a favored child of heaven. Her mother didn't restrict her with women's precepts and the like, but let her run wild with her brothers, climbing trees to steal birds' eggs, wading into rivers to catch fish, setting chickens and dogs to fight. Her father often told her historical stories and spoke of historical figures, and took her riding and practicing archery. Back then, she didn't know what sorrow was, innocent and carefree, youth in full bloom. When did she start becoming sentimental, so anxious and insecure? Oh, right, it was from the moment she met Fang Huayuan. He gave her the youthful, ignorant flutter of first love, but also the deepest, most painful betrayal. He made her taste the hardships of life, and the bitterness of love to the fullest. She had thought she would be disappointed in life and despairing about love. Yet for some reason, she wasn't. She always had an indefinable, inexplicable confidence in life. At first, she thought it came from her status, from her comfortable material circumstances, but today, after hearing Lu Fangzheng's words, she suddenly understood all along, more importantly, was her own acceptance of herself. This acceptance was enough to carry her through the long nights, enough to help her withstand all harm, heal all pain, and let her stand again and bloom anew. After coming to this realization, Li Yuan felt her mind suddenly clear, refreshed like a mountain after a new rain. Soon, her fever subsided, and the empress and the others finally breathed a sigh of relief. The most excited of all was none other than Lu Fangzheng. He brought the little trinkets he'd recently collected specifically to cheer her up. Then he hurried off to the imperial study and once again asked the emperor for permission to marry Li Yuan. This time, the emperor did not scold him, but left his fate to his own doing. Lu Fangzheng was overjoyed, almost unable to wait to hand over the command tablet. The emperor, furious, blew on his whiskers and glared. 500,000 troops, are they worth so little in your eyes? An army is important, but to me, the jade bowl is even more important. The emperor nearly rolled his eyes on the spot. If she weren't his own daughter, he would have chewed this brat out for letting lust cloud his judgment. The handover of the military tally went smoothly, the sovereign was delighted, and the court was in perfect harmony. Li Yuan gazed at the droplets falling from the eaves and suddenly found these towering walls an eyesore. But she came over with a letter, saying the Prime Minister had someone send it in. Li Yuan looked at the envelope, and Chen Pingting's face suddenly surfaced in her mind. She opened the envelope, and what met her eyes was dainty Kaishu handwriting. Li Yuan, please allow me to call you that. By the time you read this letter, I will have already left with a caravan bound for the northern deserts, embarking on an unknown journey. I feel deeply guilty for taking away Fang Huayuan, your child, and for destroying your happiness. This trip to the northern deserts will be my journey of atonement. 28. When Chen Pingting was 10, she entered the palace with her family to attend a banquet. That was the first time she saw the Princess Royal, Li Yuan. By then, she already enjoyed quite a reputation for her talent and was widely praised. She herself took pride in it, secretly smug, thinking she was the most outstanding woman under heaven. But the moment she saw Li Yuan, all her pride and conceit were shattered. Li Yuan shone brilliantly like a dazzling pearl, radiating light in all directions and making her instantly dim in comparison. She silently seethed, eyes reddening with rage and jealousy, wanting to viciously smash that brilliance. From then on, she began obsessively watching Li Yuan, not missing even the smallest detail. After a long period of spying, she finally caught an opportunity. After learning that she was willing to marry a lowly 9th-rank official, she even called her a fool. After that, her malice became uncontrollable. She deliberately got close to Fang Huayuan, deliberately tempted him, deliberately seduced him, deliberately caused him to grow distant and then betray Li Yuan. Then, at some inadvertent moment, she exposed the ugly truth before her. She didn't believe she could bear that kind of blow. She was desperate to see her driven mad with pain. But no, she left decisively, leaving both the man and the child to her. She felt the world spinning, a dizzying sense of collapse, as if all her years of scrambling and striving were a joke. And not even a good one. She thought Li Yuan was dead, and she began to violently take revenge on Fang Huayuan and those two children. Disregarding society's scorn, she brazenly entered the Fang residence, thinking that by taking revenge on that father and his sons she would feel relieved, that her life would have meaning, but in truth it did not. Instead she felt increasingly empty, feeling like an apple that looks whole on the outside but is rotten inside. One gust of wind and it would fall from the branch, smash into mush, and stink. I know I was wrong, I have wronged you, I cannot defend myself, nor dare I ask for your forgiveness, I can only, in my own way and understanding, take revenge on your behalf. Fang Huayuan is now tormented by me to the point of near death, stripped of will, stripped of his office. The Fang household has fallen. For the rest of his days he will live a shabby life in decline. As for the two children, I arranged for people to send them to the almshouse you once supported. They will not fare too badly. As for me, my reputation is completely ruined. I have brought shame on my family, and they have removed my name from the genealogy. From now on, in this vast capital, there will be no place for me to belong. Li Yuan held the letter paper, her heart a mixture of emotions. After a long while, she summoned Bai Ji and slowly lit the letter paper. The past memories rose with the rising smoke, drifting away with the wind. Li Yuan bade farewell to her father and mother, and followed Prince Pingnan to his fief. The two entered into a marriage contract, but held no ceremony. Her siblings clung to her, reluctant to part. Li Yuan was reluctant too, but now she yearned more for the vast, open world. She had wasted 7 years in the inner quarters. In marriage, in the days to come, she wanted to live more as she pleased. Lu Fangjing seemed to understand her intentions and always encouraged her to do what she wanted. He was forever her strong backing. On the way back to the fief, although they encountered several assassination attempts, all were dealt with by Lu Fangjing's guards. Although he had handed in his military token and lost command, the personal attendants he had brought along all chose to stay. When they captured an assassin and questioned him, they discovered he had been sent by an enemy state, his purpose to sow discord between the Prince of Pingnan and the imperial house. Lu Fangjing captured those assassins alive and sent men to escort them to the capital, so the emperor's father-in-law would have grounds to make demands with the enemy state. Seeing his expression full of eagerness for credit, Li Yuan only felt that her worries had been unnecessary. Perhaps she could try to trust him. Li Yuan had originally planned that once she reached the south, she would deliberately find a chance to anger Lu Fangjing, make him disappointed in her, and thus drive a wedge between them. In that case, she would have a reason to leave him, then go far away and travel the world. But the dire hardships of the people she encountered along the way made her abandon such childish, shallow ideas. The subjects whom Father Emperor so often mentioned presented themselves before her eyes in far more striking scenes. Their struggles, their toil, their suffering left her ill at ease. As if with a bone stuck in her throat and needles pricking her back, she was eager to do something for them, even if it was just a little. After she told Lu Fangjing, he didn't question or mock her. Instead, he supported her. He even said he would assign a team to her so she could carry out her ideas. Once again, Li Yuan felt the comfort of being respected and valued. As soon as they arrived at the Prince of Pingnan's mansion, she couldn't rest and immediately began reallocating personnel and taking action. Watching her bustling energy, Lu Fangjing's eyes were full of indulgence, and he sighed inwardly. His little princess has finally stepped out of the gloom of life and is shining brilliantly. Li Yuan tried to replicate as much as possible, in the southern lands, the things she had done back in the capital. At first, some people doubted her motives and sneered at her actions, dismissing them as inconsequential. But as she persisted and initial results began to show, public opinion slowly changed. Gradually, people joined her ranks, working with her to improve the living conditions of the poor. From then on, Large numbers of children who would otherwise have starved by chance survived, able to eat their fill, wear warm clothes, and attend school. Women who would otherwise have died in childbirth by chance had their lives saved. A man who should have been displaced has settled down and prospered in the southern lands. The South, which should have been in turmoil, is as well governed as the North. When the news reached the capital, the whole court rejoiced. The emperor and empress sent envoys to commend the Prince of Pingnan and his consort, and bestowed a large amount of gold, silver, and jewels. Li Yuan, after a day's hard work, lay in Lu Fengzheng's arms and felt how fortunate she was to be born into the imperial family, with parents, brothers, and sisters who loved her. Even more fortunate was meeting a partner who fully respected her and supported her unconditionally. It was their love that gave her the confidence to stand up again and reclaim herself after a failed marriage. She believed that before long, all women could find their own confidence in life and live brilliantly.